Due to ShowPro's aggressive copyright takedown policy, this re-upload will be audio only, with the fully edited version available to my patrons, link in the description below. Up next we have another film that I haven't seen in years, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. I'd only seen this one once before on TV when it first premiered, and I remember being a bit disappointed at the end. But then again, I said the same thing about Pokemon Heroes, so maybe I missed something the first time. The results? Let's take a look. Centuries ago, a knight known as Sir Aaron and his partner, Lucario, served under the queen of a kingdom that was about to fall victim to attack from outside forces. However, just before the attack begins, Aaron imprisons Lucario in his staff, declaring that he has abandoned the queen. Back in present time, Ash and friends attend a celebration in the same kingdom honoring Sir Aaron, who supposedly saved the kingdom and brought about peace. Unfortunately, due to the mischief of Mew, Pikachu ends up missing, and the issue is complicated even further when Lucario is suddenly released from the staff. Now Ash and Lucario must work together to find Pikachu and uncover the mysteries surrounding Lucario's former master. At least for the first 2/3, this movie was actually pretty alright. The characters weren't overly mean-spirited, most of the plot contrivances were kept to a minimum, and there was a solid flow to the story progression. It even brought back that slice-of-lifey moment of downtime that I mentioned in the last video. Most of this movie was just a really fun and easy watch. Very low-key in comparison to the other movies, but I don't really see that as a downside because it allows the story to be explored much more intimately. It even has its own set of themes and ideas for us to think about. Sir Aaron's betrayal of Lucario throws all of Lucario's values and ideology into question, and the dynamic between him and Ash, someone who cares very deeply about his Pokemon partners, sets up a lot of interesting talking points. Then the third act hits, and all of a sudden it's like we're in a completely different movie. This is easily one of the most jarring tone shifts that I've ever encountered, which is saying a lot considering how much anime I've seen. It's almost like they forgot that they needed to have a climax, so they just threw a ton of shit at the wall and sent everything crashing down. The three Reggies show up out of nowhere, the Tree of Beginning where Pikachu is located starts sending out these white blood cell things, the entire ecosystem starts collapsing. It's just a gigantic clusterfuck that doesn't fit at all with the rest of the story. And yet they still managed to save it somehow at the very end with a powerful yet sad finale to tie up all the loose ends in Lucario's story. Speaking of Lucario, as the title character, he's actually pretty cool. He's always been one of my favorite Pokemon, and I can certainly say that this movie contributed to that. You can feel his sense of betrayal towards Sir Aaron and how it's affected his trust in other humans, and you can really understand the stuff that he's going through. He does start to lean a little too hard on the edginess a bit after the halfway point, but it's nothing deal-breaking. I'd almost say he's up there with Mewtwo in terms of Pokemon with complex personalities. As for the other title character, Mew is just kinda there, I guess. He mostly just plays around until the climax, and he really doesn't have that much screen presence even though he's around so often. And then there's the animation, which is a complete 180 in terms of quality. I'm not gonna lie, this might be one of the worst looking Pokemon movies so far. Mostly because, Jesus Christ, what is with all the awful CG? I swear the CG must take up like an entire quarter of this film, and it's really, really bad. Surprisingly, it also goes away entirely once Ash and co hit the road, and the climax actually has some really great action shots and explosion effects. This is also the first Pokemon movie drawn with digital animation as opposed to cell animation, and you can definitely see the difference in quality. The character designs overall feel a bit less defined, and a lot of the movement feels a bit janky. Fortunately, Yuyama seems to have gotten his groove back in terms of shot composition, and there are actually some pretty memorable frames throughout the film. The soundtrack is pretty solid overall, though still no themes that are going to stick with me into the future. I did like the more renaissance-y flair that they gave to some older tracks though. Despite the massive conflagration that this movie calls a final act, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew was actually a pretty alright film. Just having a theme that I could understand and think about through the entire film was more than enough to keep me interested, and I legitimately had a good time for most of the film. Hopefully this sentiment will carry over into the last Hoenn film, Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. And don't forget to check out my other content while you wait. Special thanks to Jan Rogalski, Rourke Tenjoin, JJJ User, and all my other patrons for their generous support. My name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.